are we alone in this universe? Let us discuss the possibility of more habitable planets, like, like you talked about exoplanets and others. I mean, we have been doing research for the last, I think, 15, 20 years with very, very high precision telescopes. And yes, we could identify a lot of exoplanets. So there is a possibility of life there. But we haven't still be able to find out whether there could be a life form there. So what, according to you, could be the possibility that it is for sure the fact that we are either alone or we are not? The reason why I'm saying this is, and I'm sorry I'm taking a long time describing it, is that we haven't actually reached out to galaxies and then their star systems and their exoplanets, which are perhaps, like, let's say 100 or 500 light years or a million light years from us. So, I mean, of course, science is progressing. We are doing research every day, trying to identify and find out more such planets and try to understand the complexities of how life can emerge. But what, according to you, is the possibility that we are either alone or we are not?
Well, I guess let's start off with the extragalactic stuff which you mentioned. Our
Right.
instruments are just not sensitive enough to be able to detect exoplanets around other galaxies, let alone other planets around or on the opposite side of our galaxy, because planets are just so small compared to stars or compared to bigger objects like nebula. They're just so tiny. If you were to, for example, look at Earth, try and find Earth from, say, 50 light years away on another planet, it would be barely distinguishable. Because the thing is that finding planets is just very hard, and you also have to be very
Right.
lucky if you do find planets. And the way we find planets is through the transit method. I won't talk too much about it because I know we want to get back to the topic of the Fermi's paradox and potentially finding life.
Right.
Now, the thing which many scientists would like to see in exoplanets or even in planets in our solar system is looking at biosignatures or biological signatures. And I'll give you an example of what biological signals, like how big of an impact they have in the scientific community. If you recall, a group of scientists published a research paper claiming that they have found more phosphine in Venus than they previously expected, and that could be due to biological processes. They weren't exactly sure. They still had to confirm. They still had to double check through independent researchers. But it sent shockwaves throughout the community, because the thing is that the possibility that life could exist on a hostile planet like Venus would just be game changing, because then that would open up so many more possibilities for where life might exist. Life doesn't have to exist on a perfectly warm planet like Earth, or which is not too hot but also not too cold. It could exist on extreme planets such as Venus or Mars, or even as far as Neptune's moons. But there was some revelations, and this group of scientists eventually had to state that their research was inaccurate, and that there was actually a miscalculation in their data, and that there was actually just as much phosphine as they expected on Venus. But you could see the impact it had. Now, if we were to actually find an actual biosignature on an exoplanet, then that would be big news, because yes, it's still indirect. Yes, it's still some form of indirect evidence, maybe borderline direct evidence, but it would still be a big thing, because then that could be used as sort of the smoking gun for us finding life. That's what we want to look for, biological signatures. However, if we were to actually land on those planets, for example, we have rovers on Mars right now, they are collecting samples. If we are able to be able to collect those samples and then look at them in specially monitored and sterilized laboratories, then we can further analyze through human methods whether life exists in those samples. We have to be a bit lucky though with those samples because we're only collecting a few grams out of potentially an entire planet's worth of surface. And, you know, finding life in that sample might be extremely unlikely, especially if most of those single-celled life which we're looking for have already disintegrated, which is a possibility, which I'm not really sure about because I focus more on radio astronomy and pulsars and neutrons, which we talked about in round one. Yeah, hopefully there's a link below for that. That would be really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty much all that I have to say about biosignatures. There's
Okay.
there's new fields opening up to look at how we could potentially, find new ways of determining if life exists on other planets by analyzing some of the biological
Mm,
signatures we find here on Earth. So that might be through
mm.
fossil records, or that might be through atmospheric analysis and other stuff like that. And that would be really interesting to see.
Right, right. Fantastic. Great point. I was also thinking if you can talk about the fact that, and I discussed this with Lawrence Cross as well when, he came to the podcast, is that the our existence on the cosmic scale is such minuscule when you compare it to the whole lifeline of universe or its age, which is about 13.8 billion years, that you know, there could be life on Mars, perhaps even advanced one, and then it's wiped out, in the last 2 to 3 billion years ago. And then perhaps because of that reason, life would have wiped out from there because it has become inhabitable. Like perhaps if we don't care about climate crisis right now on Earth, our planet can become inhabitable. So, I mean, the point I'm trying to get onto is that what, in your view, is the fact that, we cannot just judge life based on what is present today, as of what we see today or what we can research today or what we can identify today, but life can actually exist in different time scales, and perhaps that's how it is. So yeah, if you can talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at the Fermi's paradox, there are various resolutions to the paradox, and as you mentioned, one of the resolutions is the fact that advanced civilizations, they become so advanced and they develop such advanced technologies that those advanced technologies eventually destroy themselves, and
Mm,
these might be pathogen, artificially in artificial gain of function research, which is some of the research which we're doing right now on viruses, which are making them more deadly. That could be a uh,
mm,
potential technology or research that could end humanity as we know it. Another another option is just the fact that we've got so many tensions between different groups of people, such as, there's
right.
religious tensions, there's economic, there's geopolitical tensions that might result in,
Mm,
a war that wipes all of humanity. I mean, there was even a point in history which we refer to as the Toba super eruption, that almost
mm,
wiped out all of humanity. There were only about 1,000 people who survived that Toba super eruption, at least on that island or in that region. And so
mm,
what this shows is that it could be the fact that, like, we might be existing right now, and then there was another advanced civilization that existed before us 3 billion years ago, but then they died out for some unknown reason. It might be that, after we maybe if we extinguish ourselves or kill ourselves or destroy ourselves, there might be another advanced civilization that just might pop up and think, well, we're the only ones that exist in the universe right now. This is so odd. It's a possibility. And on the point that you mentioned that we as a civilization are very minuscule compared to the universe, yes, we are
mm.
physically speaking, we are very minuscule. However, we also have to reconsider the fact that we are the only observers of the universe. I mean, who is going to take
Right.
in the entire beauty and, the entire beauty of the cosmos? There's
Mm.
without us, there's not going to be anyone to look at the universe and just be like, wow, man, I live in this universe. It's so cool. This
Right.
is one of the philosophical things which I always come back to, and that is that I mean, if you want to feel grateful for something, but you don't have anything to feel grateful for, just feel grateful for the fact that you might be a part of the only advanced civilization that can look up at the stars and be like, "Man, I live in this universe. It's so cool," right? And that's something to
Right.
feel really unique about. And it's and if we aren't the only advanced civilization in the universe, so be it. We need to be able to cooperate with those other advanced civilizations, because otherwise that could result in total annihilation of both
Right.
advanced civilizations. But that's in physical space. Physically in space, we are minuscule. Mentally, we are not minuscule. We are actually we could actually be the most advanced civilization in the entire universe right now. In terms of
Right.
time, or yeah, in terms of time, we might actually not be as minuscule as we think. Yes, life has been around here for 4 billion years, and that's actually a very small period in the universe's history so far, only about a third of the universe's history
Mm.
so far. But you know, remember that the universe has still got billions, if not trillions of years left before the last star dies. And if you look at the time period between the start of the universe and when the last star dies, you find that we are actually at the very start of this period, or this epoch of life, as I like to call it. And
Mm.
you know, if we don't find life in our galaxy or in our solar system, so be it, because what that shows
Mm.
us is that we are potentially the first advanced civilization, and that there are many more other civilizations to come in the future, and we might be one of those guiding peoples that will sort of look down at newer civilizations later down the line and provide guidance and help them out in achieving what they want to achieve.